What up? Alright, so today we are going to continue to talk a little bit about waves and sound and color, just in a different format. So, everything essentially in the universe is, to us, subatomic particles or atoms. And those things are vibrating in tons of different patterns. Now, if you go down deeper than that, there's essentially little pieces called quarks. And all these little quarks are the bases for protons, neutrons, electrons, and essentially those are like Legos. And those are held together by a field called gluons. But, so, if you carry this even deeper, essentially, it's like, alright, what actually holds those together? You know, it's a concept of strong or weak nuclear force, gravity, and electromagnetism. So yeah, so if you end up going to all those different matter is held together by these forces. But where do these forces come from? So if you go through most of the religions in the world, or all of the religions in the world, I want to say most because I haven't gone through most of them, but I've looked into a fair amount of them, tiny bit, just because I'm curious. So if you go through them, the majority of them, and I only have a few listed out here, but have the idea that everything started at once. So for example, with Christianity, God spoke, energy. Judaism is along the same forms, it was light before form, so if light, energy, right? And then Islam is Allah created, so same, putting energy out there. Hinduism is the universe began by the Om sound, so it's a sound that went out. Buddhism is consciousness precedes form, so thought or whatever creates our consciousness is the first moment energy that went out. Sikhism is the universe was created from a divine sound as well, so similar and with Hinduism in their belief. Taoism is yin yang, so essentially something, the interaction of two opposites chasing each other is what created everything, or energy. And then you have like Shinto, I believe that's Japan. It's when heaven and earth split that created everything. Norse is yeah, fire and ice met in the void and clashed and created form, and then the form killed a giant, which is what created the earth. And so, a lot of energy for sure in that. And then you have the Greek, they believe chaos is what created everything. Maori is also kind of similar. It's when something's separated. The Egyptians believed things were spoken into existence or masturbated into existence. In science, it believes the Big Bang. So most of these things take place from an singular or in something happening. And from that moment that something happened, it carried out. Now, as it carried out, what we've come to learn or to understand or to believe so far is that as that energy carried out, from the moment of its explosion or its creation or whatever you want to call it, that energy, as it spread out, began to cool. And as it began to cool, it slowed its movements down in different ways. And as it slowed its movements down in different ways and interacted with itself as it was bouncing out, kind of like a laser show, what happened is, the energy changed, became different wavelengths, became different little vibrational movements outward. Now, these different vibrational movements outward is essentially what all of those forces, the magnetism, gravity, the strong, and the weak nuclear force became. It became these rules that dictated how interactions of these waves went together. So as these waves continued out, eventually down the line, you have, fast forward really far, you have everything that we have here that we see. And so in a weird way, everything that we have is a combination of light bouncing in different patterns and influenced in different ways to maintain and hold its structure. So, if that's the case, and everything that we see is formation of light, we already know that we interpret the light based on the way that it's reflected and absorbed around the different densities of these vibration of particles or atoms, molecules. So in a weird kind of way, I feel like as time has went on, whatever our consciousness is, we have learned from a very beginning to dictate and interpret the light. And I guess what I mean by that is, we have learned to see things based on what we were taught. We learned to see the color green as green and black as black and red as red because we were taught that that's what those colors are. And so our brain was just like, all right, this is what this is. With that being said, our words and our thoughts limit the world that we see to the things that we have pre-programmed our brain to believe. And at that same instance, I believe that if we learn to believe and deeply believe in things, we have the ability to create through alchemy matter or light into different forms. These days, we as humans do it a lot slower. For example, like takes me a lot of energy and time, but through my thought, I'm eventually able to figure out how to make a surfboard. I'm putting a lot of thought and energy into whittling something down and etc. But with that, I feel like our words have a lot more power than we realize. Just because what's happening when you think a thought is when you think a thought, a little electrical signal essentially fires in your brain. And it travels across the synapses, the parts that connect your brain, the different parts of your brain, and then eventually travels throughout your body. What's happening is because our body is mostly water, and our brain is even more water, as you think this thought, it sends out a little electrical signal, and that electrical signal carries a ripple through our bodies. The more you think a thought, the more structured that ripple becomes. The more structured that ripple becomes, eventually we start to speak it. If we think the thought enough, we start to believe the thought. If we believe the thought, think the thought enough, we start to believe the thought. If we believe the thought and we start to speak it, what we're doing is just like in other beliefs, we are projecting energy out into the world. Now, energy through voice is just a different wavelength than light. It's a slower wavelength than light. But still a wavelength. And if you're able to think and speak and do, then you're compounding that energy and that wavelength that you're putting into the world around us to eventually create things. And I guess what I'm getting at is through all of the things that we learn to believe become the things that build our worlds, become the things that limit our worlds, because our beliefs become our limits. If it's what we believe, are we able to know what's past that? So these days it's interesting because we have so many people in the world that are unconscious of the way that they speak towards things, or unaware of how deeply the things that are spoke actually push things into existence. And in a lot of ways, the world is in a lot of chaos. And in a lot of ways, maybe it's always been in chaos because it's the chaos that creates through waves. But if we all spent a little bit more time understanding the chaos we want to create, we'd be able to start building the world into the things that we all used to hope it to be, not the things that we're currently doing. And so, I guess this is a little bit of a thing for encouragement, but also to help people realize that even though our words are a softer form of vibration, they're still a vibration that creates waves. It's what our entire universe is built off of. It's why our entire universe exists. It's wavelengths of light and sound bending together and creating different vibrational patterns that unfold into everything that we see. And so, I guess why one of the things why I believe it's important for us all to spend time with our own thoughts is so that we, one, get to know our own energy and the things that go on inside of our head, so that way we no longer run from it, but we direct it. And when we're able to direct it and understand it, then we have the courage to become the people that we see inside of our minds. And in turn, as we all chase the things that we see inside of our minds, instead of this world that was built for other reasons, is we all learn to chase our own dreams. I think that is what will change everything. So, that being said, spread love. And your own dreams. Your own dreams are important.